Hi, this is Dan Pastorini, and you're listening to The Grilling Truth.
Hi, and welcome to the weekly college football pick'em show here at the grillingtruth.net, as brought to you by Gridiron Mo, an interactive football game app which pits you against other football fans across the country in predicting the next play within a live NFL game. Think you're smarter than the average fan? See for yourself at Gridiron Mo through this website or at gridironmo.com. That address is correct, right, Mike?
Yes, it is.
Okay. My name is Oz Davis. I'll be the host for this discussion on college football. And our first regular on the show is Mike Goodpaster, the fearless leader here at grillingtruth.net. How you doing tonight, Mike?
All right. How you doing?
You got one eye on the Grey Cup?
Yes, I'm watching the Grey Cup.
Okay. All right.
Any true American is watching the Grey Cup right now.
Yeah, that's it. You're a good man, Mike. You're taking one for the country. You're a good man. All right, so pitting his wits against Mike, as always this week, is the co-host of the weekly Titletown Huddle Green Bay Packers podcast here at the grillingtruth.net and a regular participant on the NFL Weekly Pick'em show, Aaron Zepnick. How's it going for you tonight, Aaron?
Doing well, thanks, Oz.
Hey,
Okay.
Aaron, why don't you bring up right now the fact that me and you tied for first and he was last week?
Wow. On this show, yeah, I took a lot of flyers last week. I admit it. We got an intriguing slate to pick this week. I like some of these matchups this week. This will be interesting.
Well, yeah, because you're getting to the conference championship game, so you don't have the crappy matchups. You don't have like Rutgers against somebody.
Yeah, this is the proverbial most wonderful time of the year, I think. As a very casual fan of college football, I'm spending way too much time watching CFL and NFL to watch enough college football, but I pay serious attention to the bowl games. I wanted to ask you this, Aaron. How many of the bowl games and which bowl games do you watch?
I'll watch the national championship, obviously.
Sure.
I'll watch the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
And then I'll watch whatever bowl the Badgers are in. I try to catch a couple more on New Year's Day if I'm not doing too much. But it used to be a lot easier to catch them all because they'd be one after another on New Year's Day, and you'd have the Champ Sports Bowl and the Outback Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl. You could kind of catch a lot of them. So, but
back in the day, you could miss some. Now,
True.
in theory, you could see every single one of them if you wanted to. You always miss the one that had, Air Force versus Akron or whatever.
Well, they always had the Sugar Bowl and the Orange Bowl opposite of each other, too.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
And like the Citrus and the Fiesta Bowl, the 1 o'clock games would be opposite. The only game they would leave alone was the Rose Bowl at 4:45.
Right, wow. Excellent recall of old TV. You spent many hours in front of the TV, Mike.
I'm still waiting on Indiana to make it to the Rose Bowl, by the way. They made it the year before I was born. And
there you go.
Now I figure it probably can because they take the 4th or 5th best team to go to the Rose Bowl. So I think IU's got a shot if they have an extraordinarily good year and go 7-4.
There you go. Dare to dream, Mike. Dare to dream. All right, let's talk some playoff rankings then, since we're talking bowl games. As we usually do, we run these down. Okay, so last week we had a top 4 of Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, and Clemson. And, of course, this week Michigan lost in that excruciating overtime game against Ohio State. So we have to figure that Michigan is going to drop out of the top 4 this week. Now, according to the Grueling Truth rankings, the top 4 will be Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Washington. Aaron, I guess that this has got to be what the committee has to say, right? There really isn't an alternative to this, is there?
Not yet.
Right.
And I say not yet because I think whoever wins the Wisconsin-Penn State game could jump Washington or Clemson. And one of them teams, if not both, might lose this week.
Wow.
Okay, number one, I don't think there's any way Clemson loses to Virginia Tech, especially the way it's playing now. And Colorado doesn't have enough offense to beat Washington. Washington played their one bad game. Yeah. But on top of that, the big problem for Wisconsin now is Penn State's running back may not be able to play. He hurt his
Why is
foot.
that a problem for Wisconsin?
Well, because if you beat Penn State without their best player, it may not hold as much water to the committee. I mean, they do that in NCAA basketball. Because I remember the one year, who was it? I've seen players get basketball players hurt. Huh?
If that's the case, then Wisconsin's only 2 losses by a touchdown to number 2 and number 3, Ohio State, Michigan. They didn't have their starting middle linebacker, Beagle, who's their best defensive player. So, yeah.
Big difference between that and your pretty much 90% of your offense.
Well, Beagle makes a big difference on that defense, and if the committee sees, hey, Beagle's back, and they could beat Ohio State, I could see Wisconsin getting in. And I know we'll talk about this later on, being that, we're picking the Wisconsin game. But
yeah, we have Wisconsin on the slate.
Well, Wisconsin still is a 2-loss team. Washington and Clemson would both be 1-loss teams.
Right.
I think it would be hard to put Wisconsin over them with the 2 losses. Plus, they'll have the 1 win against Penn State. The other thing is, offensively, Washington's a lot better team than Wisconsin or Penn State. And defensively, there's not that big of a difference. Defensively, Wisconsin ranks number 4 in the country or number 3 in the country, and Washington ranks number 10.
Yeah. I mean, Wisconsin's only thing is their offense, and they're real young. They have a plethora of running backs with Shaw, Gunyawali, and Clements. Wisconsin's going to be good for a while. Their defense is young. I think they have 3 starters that are seniors, so they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're not going anywhere. They're not going to be able to win a national title until they get a quarterback. I mean, if you look at the history, how many teams have won a national title or a Super Bowl, any of that stuff, without a legitimate quarterback threat? And that's why I don't think Ohio State can win it all from watching J.T. Barrett. I don't think he can throw the ball more than 15 or 20 yards down the field accurately. And it really killed him yesterday. I mean, Michigan completely outplayed him and basically gave the ball game away by fumbling the ball inside the 5, stupid penalties. I mean, they throw a pick 6. I mean, rightfully, if you watch that game, I mean, Michigan beats them 24-7 if they don't do all the stupid crap they did.
Yeah, I agree. Michigan handed that game away.
And I'll also tell you this with the committee, I wouldn't be surprised if they jumped Michigan in there over some teams. They've got 2 losses. They've got 2 losses. Their losses were in overtime to Ohio State and by 3 points to Iowa.
And Iowa's not a bad team. They were actually predicted to be like in the Big Ten championship this year.
Yeah, but the same thing. Their offense is not that great. They had a ton of injuries at the start of the year too.
Yep.
I will give you that. And, I mean, nobody played a tougher 3-game stretch than Michigan did this year. I mean, back-to-back, they played Colorado, Penn State, Wisconsin, and beat all 3 of them right in a row.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this. I'd like to get back to the ratings at thegruelingtruth.net because these are compiled by Mr. Goodpaster. And I always like digging into these because the top 4 have been at least somewhat obvious for the past few weeks. But after the top 4, okay, here's what we got. We got Penn State at 5, Wisconsin at 6, Michigan at 7, Oklahoma at 8, Colorado at 9, and
what are you looking at, Oz?
Aren't these your power ratings?
Are you looking at them correctly?
Did
you write them down, Oz?
I wrote them down. Okay. What are your top?
I want to check the website. It's Michigan 5, Penn State 6, Wisconsin 7. In my opinion, whoever wins Penn State, Wisconsin will jump Michigan. And the big thing is, can you jump Washington or Clemson? Because right now, I mean, Michigan's got the better wins. Michigan beat Penn State. Michigan beat Wisconsin. So, but I still think whoever wins the Big Ten championship, unless it's a 6-3 game, I would jump over top of Michigan anyways.
But then you have Oklahoma, Colorado, USC, right?
Yeah, and Oklahoma and Colorado, I think, have outside chances. I mean, Oklahoma plays a really good Oklahoma State team who only lost 2 games, and one was an officiating error why they lost the game. So if Oklahoma was to come out and put 50 points on Oklahoma State, I still don't think they get in, but I think they're in the conversation, especially if you were to get, as Aaron said, a Clemson and Washington loss in a 6-3 Big Ten championship game.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But here's my question, because you've said this to me many times before. You think that a team like Oklahoma will get more consideration from the committee, that a team like USC is playing better ball than most schools in the country right now. So in your column, Oklahoma number 8, USC number 10. Why? Are you tempted to move them up? Were you tempted to dump Michigan lower than 5?
If I had to pick the 4 best teams in the country right now,
right,
I would say Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and USC.
Okay. Okay, Aaron.
I mean, I think those are the 4. Those are the 4 teams
Aaron?
that are playing the best. I'm not sure about Ohio State. If Washington was to blow out Colorado, I could see putting Washington there. But if you watch them play, I mean, I think those are the best teams. I mean, if you look at Penn State, Michigan, I think Oklahoma would run them out of the building right now. Maybe not Penn State if the running back's healthy. I'm still not sure about Penn State because they're a team that got a lot better as the season went on, so I don't really think we know exactly how good Penn State is yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Aaron, what would you say are the top 4 right now? Top 4 teams right now?
Right now, I'd say Alabama, Ohio State, Washington, and whoever wins the Wisconsin-Penn State game.
They're the best teams.
Okay.
No, I mean, not who should be in the play. Who are the 4 best teams?
Yeah, the 4 best teams.
4 best teams?
Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you had to say the 4 teams that would beat everybody else right now, I think that's what I was asking at least.
Yeah, you take 4 teams that you think are going to win. You got to bet your life savings on 4 teams. Which 4 do you pick? What are your 4?
Alabama, Ohio State.
Okay.
That's the problem. That's why there needs to be more teams.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I agree fully with that. You need to have 2 through 10 right now are pretty damn close to being the same conversation.
Right.
2 through 10 are legitimate contenders, and there's going to be teams, no matter what, I feel that they deserve to be in that running. I mean, Western Michigan's undefeated. Mm-hmm. Strength of schedule is going to hurt them. They're still ranked at like 21, I think.
Yeah, and they're 2-0 against Big Ten teams, and the Toledo team that they just put 55 on beat Arkansas.
Right. So I don't understand why they're not getting the national attention or the respect that they're probably deserved, but they're not. And you know, after 10, I mean, you still got some teams that are sitting there with 2 losses that are really good football teams.
Well, hell, if you put Oklahoma State in a playoff situation, they could beat some people.
You have Oklahoma State.
Wow.
You have Colorado. You have
Florida State. Florida State's a good team. They just played like crap at the start of the year.
Oklahoma State, Colorado. The other team I was going to touch on is West Virginia. West Virginia's only got 2 losses.
Yeah, but they lost to Texas. Did they lose? Did they lose to Texas or beat Texas? I can't remember now.
They beat Texas. I think they lost.
I'll tell you a team I would throw in here that, as a 16 seed, could cause all kind of trouble because of their offense is Navy.
Yeah, Navy's only got 2 losses as well. They're unranked up until last week.
Yeah,
I think Navy. I think 16 is too many. How many?
Really? Because you know that Division I AA they carry 24. Why 16 too many?
I don't know, because I don't know. It seems to me that once you get down to it, I mean, it's like Aaron just said. There's compelling stories, I think, within the top 11 of your power rankings.
Well, I think there's compelling stories to 12 with Oklahoma State, to 13 with Florida State. With Dalvin Cook, they'd be dangerous for anybody. Yeah, West Virginia. I think West Virginia put themselves out of the conversation when Oklahoma went there and beat them like 55-12 or whatever it was.
Yes. I would agree.
Agreed.
So really, I think actually you've got probably 13 compelling arguments, and then also you got a team like Jacksonville State, which nobody talks about. They've lost 1 game. That 1 loss was at the end of the game to Auburn, an SEC school.
Yeah, but you get one weirdie and this year that's Michigan.
Why do you only get one weirdie? There's nothing weird about Western Michigan because anybody that knew anything about college football knew they were going to be really good.
How many major conferences are there?
5.
Really? 5. Okay, great. Okay, you take 5. You give 6 spots to those 5 conferences. You give 1 spot to another major conference, like the Mountain West and conferences like this, the Metro Atlantic.
And the Mountain West deserves to be considered a power conference anyways. They got some good football.
Does it really?
Boise State is consistently in the top 25.
Wow.
For argument's sake, you picked the top 5 power conferences. You took the 5 winners that got automatic bids.
Take the 5 winners and the 5 second-place teams. So you get 10. And then you got 6 at-large bids.
Okay. Right. Okay, I would buy
So this
that.
year, but then again, really, if you have 16 teams, there's no reason to play a conference playoff.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Is
Take
you count
the
the conference playoff.
You play your bowls, and you could still name them bowl. The Champ Sports Bowl could be the, one.
Yeah,
versus.
but Aaron, my problem with those bowls is half of them only draw 10,000 people to a game.
Well, but you seem to think, Mike, that if they were part of a tournament, that they would draw more interest.
It would. I mean, you know how big the NCAA basketball is. Just think if you had an NCAA football,
Well, you could play it at home venue.
You had a December madness. Yeah, what you do, I would take 24.
First couple of rounds. Play at home
I'd take 24. The 17 through 24 have to play a play-in game. The other 16 get a bye. That's how they do it in 1AA. Division 2 and 3, they play with 32.
Now.
And the season will be over before Christmas.
Wow. That's ambitious. All right.
Do you think there'd be more or less injuries in the NFL if that happened?
More or less injuries in it. Well, I can tell you this, Aaron. Division 1AA, Division 2, Division 3 do it, and they don't show a huge spike in injuries.
No, I'm thinking the opposite. I think it would prepare them for a little more for the 6-game schedule.
Yes, because right now, if you're the Cowboys, you're worried about Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott when they get to their 15th, 16th, 18th game.
Right, because their bodies are used to not having that many games. So after 12 games, they shut down, which is why a lot of the high-priced guys find a way to only play 12 games. Look at Clay Matthews.
Yeah, but really, Aaron, anymore, I don't think that happens. And the reason I say that is this. Colleges are allowed to hit 2 or 3 days a week. The NFL, you don't hit at all. So the wear and tear in your body may be more playing at a Florida State than it is playing for the Green Bay Packers.
Absolutely.
So, I think that's why you don't see that being as big of a deal anymore either. And then the other question is, why do you have college guys banging their heads against each other 2 or 3 days a week for that long, plus a training camp, but yet grown men you don't do that with?
Because there's millions and millions of dollars with the grown men.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The problem
it's all about money.
With high school and college kids, it's their brains. And this is the problem. The NFL and the players, and we and I were talking about this the other day, and it seems almost all the time, the players we talk to that have the most problems are guys that played pee-wee football. And you play pee-wee. If you're in the NFL, you started playing when you were 5 or 6. By the time you get to the NFL, you've been hitting for 16 years.
Yeah.
Where if you start playing in high school, you've been hitting for half that time.
Oh.
And the reality is too that your skull is not completely formed and set until you're like 10.
No, it's not even 10. It's 14.
Oh, is it? Okay.
From all the research I've been doing for the article I'm on, it's 14. I don't think anybody under the age of 14 should be playing tackle football.
Right. So, you're jiggling your brain at a much more frequent rate the younger you are.
And your neck's not as developed either, so you take even a little hit, it can do something. You don't have to get a concussion to get, CTE symptoms from it.
Exactly. They talk about repetitive motion syndrome and stuff like this, right, where small movements done like 70 times are much worse than like traumatic movements done twice or 3 times.
Yeah, and when you got hitting and practice, it's just like the thing that drove me nuts. My son's a quarterback high school. sophomore quarterback. First few games, he's throwing the ball out of bounds like he sees on TV because he's out of the pocket. Always gets a penalty. And when you ask
grounding?
high school officials, yeah, well, in high school football, you have to throw the ball to receiver. You can't just throw it away. Now, in professional football, they do it to protect the quarterback.
Right.
But in high school football, they don't protect the quarterback.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
Backwards.
No, it looks like you would want to protect the younger guys before you would the older guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, player safety is player safety. I mean, you should want to protect all player safety.
Yeah, but, I mean, the thing is, you should want to protect younger guys even more.
Yeah.
And the fact that they don't, I mean, it is mind-blowing to me.
Yep.
Well, we're a little bit far afield, but let's get back to it.
Well, let's go ahead and pick the games then.
Yeah, at this point in the show, I was just going to say, at this point in the show, we have a slate of games that are of interest next week that we're going to
we'll
take
talk
our
about the
hand
Heisman after that if we got time.
At picking, if you would like. I'm not so much going to pick them as make mistakes on them, and I'm going to let the guys do the heavy lifting. Okay, let's talk about one of your favorite teams first, Mike. We've got Ohio at Western Michigan. Western Michigan is an 18.5-point favorite.
Ohio's a good football team. Western Michigan beats them by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, okay.
But Ohio is a good football team.
Well said. Go ahead. No? Okay. Aaron, what do you got on this game?
Western Michigan.
Okay.
I don't think that there's anybody in that conference that can beat Western Michigan, and I think Mike's right. I think they'll win by 3-4 touchdowns.
And I'll tell you this: they're going to get a New Year's Day Six Bowl. It's somebody from the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, or Pac-12. One of those conferences is going to get a huge surprise.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun. Coming out party for Western Michigan on New Year's Day or Christmas.
I like to see them put them against Michigan.
Yeah. Western Michigan against Michigan, yes. That's great. They got to do that. You're a genius, Mike. Has anyone ever told you that? I mean, besides yourself?
Get off your knees and give us the next game.
Okay. I was just going to say I wanted to pick this game, too.
And no, nobody's ever called me a genius, by the way.
Oh, okay. Oh, not even yourself? Okay.
No. I don't talk to myself that much anymore because then I just end up in an argument.
I'll take the Western Michigan, 55 points against Toledo. Wow. All right, game 2, Colorado against Washington. Now, Washington is a 7-point favorite. To me, that's a lot. Aaron?
How many points?
7. That's a lot to me. Aaron, what do you think? Is that a lot to you?
I'm going to take Colorado.
Yeah, okay. See, it is.
Only because I know Mike's going to take Washington. And because
you're just taking Colorado on the off chance that maybe they'll win and then Wisconsin can get in. I used to do that with the Pick'em show and always pick against the Steelers and Ravens till I figured I was losing that way.
Yeah. I think Colorado
great.
is a football team. I wouldn't be surprised at a neutral site if they actually beat Washington.
It doesn't matter where the site is. Washington will manhandle them. They will not be able to cover Washington's wide receivers. They had trouble with USC's passing game. They can stop the run all day, but I think Washington wins the game like 34-16.
Wow. Yeah, well, I watched the Colorado-Utah game, and I noticed Colorado struggling with Utah. So I was going to go with Washington after they, cruised against Washington State. But you're convincing me. So I guess I'll take Washington minus the point. I was going to take Colorado to cover, but I think I'll go Washington. I'll go with Mike on this one. All right, here we go. Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 12.5-point favorite. I have no idea about this game, except that I know that Oklahoma's hot right now. So I'll say Oklahoma covers the 12.5. But Mike, you think Oklahoma State's pretty good?
Yeah, I do. I mean, They've lost 2 games. I will give you this, too. One of the games they lost to Central Michigan, they got a bad call to end, but it was at Oklahoma State. That same Central Michigan team got beat by 45 points against Western Michigan. I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I think they got too much offense. I think they win the game by a couple touchdowns.
Okay. Yeah, that just about covers. Aaron?
Yeah, I got Oklahoma winning this one as well. I think it'll be close for a while, but I think Oklahoma pull away at the end.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
And I would like to see Oklahoma in the playoff just because they've got probably the best quarterback in the country and the best wide receiver in the country.
Yeah, I want to see a team that's on the up. You know, I wanted to say this because I never got the chance before. I wanted to say I watched the Clemson game, and wow, this is the best they've been all year, I think. And I think this is the team that we saw last year that was so exciting in the football playoff. And I think that this game that they played last week is the best argument for them to be in the playoff because then they'll get a chance to, you know, avenge their loss in the final or what.
I think the fact that they were there last year and only have one loss is why they're going to be allowed in. And I also think this. I think matchup-wise, they're the team that matches up to give Alabama the most trouble.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm right in line with you. I mean, you guys were talking about your top teams and stuff, but I didn't hear too much love for Clemson. Aaron, what's your take?
Well, other than the fact when you were reading them off, you said I had them ranked third. How much more love do you want? And really, I considered putting them at 2 just because Ohio State struggled with Michigan State, and Michigan manhandled them. I mean, Michigan gave them the game.
Yeah, see, that's what I was wondering. I mean, why wasn't – I mean, are you underrating Clemson, Mike? Shouldn't Clemson be number 1?
Oh, whatever, Oz.
But I also wanted to ask Aaron. Aaron, what's your take on Clemson? Because I haven't heard much from you on them.
I think Clemson's overrated. They almost lost 4 games this year.
Yeah, but see, the thing is this. How can you be almost overrated because you almost lost some games? Almost losing.
Right. Right.
I don't think Clemson has a very good defense at all. I don't think Clemson will beat anybody else in the playoff picture.
Wow.
Well, they beat South Carolina 56-7. Yeah,
South Carolina's not very good. The SEC
they're 6-6 and they're bowl eligible. The argument you always give me is Northwestern's a good team because they're bowl eligible. They're 6-6.
Oh God, you guys are both nuts.
Look, Clemson almost lost to NC State, who's a decent team but not great. They almost lost to Florida State, Louisville, and they did lose to Pitt, who's unranked, at Clemson. I think that Clemson one loss at home against an unranked team is worse than losing to the 2 of the top 5 teams in the nation.
Clemson does have a win at Auburn, which is a top 25 team. They have a win over Troy, which was a close game, but Troy was in the top 25 for a couple weeks recently. Georgia Tech's a good team, and they blew Georgia Tech out. And Georgia Tech, I think, has got 8 wins, beat Georgia yesterday. Louisville, at the time they played Louisville was ranked number 2 or 3.
Well, at the time they played, you told me doesn't matter.
I know. That was my point. and you just validated my point. But they beat Syracuse.
Aaron.
Here's my take on Clemson. They can beat anybody in the country, but they can lose to half of the top 25.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think this. The way college football is this year, that could be said for about anybody, including Alabama.
I agree. Like I said, 2 through 10. You could throw them in a hat and pick a name up.
So you can't penalize a team for only having 1 loss. I mean, they had 1 loss. All the other games they won.
Any other teams?
Auburn's a top 25 team. Pitt will probably be 25 this week or right on the outskirts of it.
Yeah, that's the
Louisville's still going to be in the top 20 somehow.
Yes, we will talk about Louisville later, I assume. But, let's
No, we won't. Their season's over. All right, next up.
Let's get to this game, Virginia Tech at Clemson. Okay, Clemson is a 9.5-point favorite. I got to tell you, I was impressed with Clemson. I like the way they played. I'm taking Clemson to cover this. I don't know much about Virginia Tech, but I'll take Clemson. Mike?
Yeah, I'm going with Clemson. I think Clemson's on a roll. Virginia Tech's a team that lost by 3 touchdowns to Tennessee. Virginia Tech's also a team that will pop up and play great every once in a while. So I'm going to go with Clemson. I think they win the game. I think they'll cover.
Okay, great. Aaron?
Hokies. Hokies, special teams is a Achilles heel of Clemson's, and Virginia Tech is known for their special teams. They will come out and they will be spoiler.
Virginia. Are they still known they were known for their special teams because of Frank Beamer. Frank Beamer has been gone for a couple of years.
I understand that, but they're still a team that prides herself on special teams.
Okay. Well, see, I like the boldness of that prediction. So let's leave Coach Beamer aside. Let's go to Florida at Alabama. Okay, now I'm warning you in advance, Mike. I'll probably call on Aaron first for these last two. Okay, Aaron, I'm going to go to you first. Florida at Alabama, 23-point favorites for Alabama. That's a lot. What do you think?
I think Alabama will cover this one. I think Florida had a huge letdown against Florida State. I don't think that it was because they're looking ahead because, look, let's just face it, Alabama is the best team in the country. I think Jalen Hurt actually put himself in the front running for the Heisman last week.
He took 2 picks.
He didn't have a very good first half, but Auburn has a pretty stingy defense. And when they finally came out and started adjusting and scoring points, it was because he was getting 1 or 2 reads. He was comfortable, and they let him do what he's been doing all year. I think Alabama wins this game by at least 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I was ready to say that Florida would cover this because I didn't think they looked so bad, but then I saw the game last weekend, and I'm just like, wow, that was a terrible loss against FSU. I can't believe that you will cover 4 touchdowns against Alabama. And the thing is, Alabama seems to be getting all of these teams when they've already been crushed by somebody else, except for the first couple of weeks of the season. They're getting teams that have already been dismissed and are out of any playoff races that they were in, and this is why they look so good. If Alabama's overrated, it's because they're getting these teams when they're already beaten. But I will take Alabama to win this game by 3.5 touchdowns, 23 points. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, if you look at Florida, they beat Vandy by a touchdown. They lost to Arkansas 31-10. They beat South Carolina 20-7, a South Carolina team that lost 56-7 to Clemson. I mean, their best win is probably.
But they're bowl
LSU.
eligible.
Yeah, shut up. But LSU 16-10. They've beaten nobody, is my point.
Yeah.
I mean, Kentucky might be the best team they've beaten. Kentucky and LSU. I mean, Florida State pretty much manhandled them. 31-13.
Yeah.
I don't think the game was as close as the score would indicate, believe it or not.
No, it's terrible.
I'm going to go with Alabama and give the points. The only way Alabama may not is if, they decide to rest some guys so they don't get anybody hurt before the national championship. Because even if they were to lose to Florida, they're going to play in the Final Four.
Yeah, I would think so. But the national championships don't start for like a month. They're going to get a lot of time off so they can play starters here, can't they?
Yeah, I know they will. That was my point, was the only way they wouldn't win. As if that would happen that way. I didn't say it would. I'm just saying that's the only way it would be possible.
Okay.
They'll rest starters after they're up 40-0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Florida will score 3 touchdowns and we'll all lose.
Hey, Oz, I missed. What was the point spread on the Virginia Tech Clemson game?
Virginia 9.5. 9.5 to Clemson.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm taking Clemson to cover that. Mike is. You are as well. Aaron.
No, I'm not.
No,
that's right. Yeah, you're taking Tech. You're a special team. Right.
Come on, get with it. You're supposed to be the host of the show. Know what's going on.
Sorry. I can't.
It's hard to get good help, Aaron.
I can't wait to watch this game. All right.
Guess you get what you pay for, though, Aaron. And that's Oz. Go ahead, Oz.
Yeah. That's right. I am a hoe. I will admit it. Right. Here we go.
Aaron was just telling me that the other day. I didn't defend you either. I agreed with him.
Right, yeah. Like Santa Claus says, I'm a ho, ho, ho. Final game, the one that we've been waiting for on this show for weeks. Right, Mike? Right, Aaron? Penn State at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a 2.5-point favorite. I bet Aaron's going to tell me that indicates not enough respect.
Respect is earned, and I know that Wisconsin's always been in the top, they've been in the top 15, top 10 at times, but this is the season that they finally went out and got the SEC game. They finally went out and won that game and set themselves up for a nice run. Yeah, they lost to Ohio State at home in overtime by a touchdown. Yes, they lost at the Big House by a touchdown. Game was probably not that close. However, not having your defensive MVP and being within a touchdown of both of those teams, I think, proved to themselves that they can play with anybody. And I believe that they can, and I think they'll beat Penn State by 10, 23-13.
Wow. All right. I like the specificity. Mike, what do you say for this game? Upset?
I don't know. Is Penn State's running back healthy?
Well, okay. Yep. In fact, I read this 10 minutes before this show started about this questionable injury. I still don't know. We're recording this on, Sunday night, so I assume by game time we will know. Okay, Mike, I'll let you be schizophrenic. Let's say he...
No, we're not going to do that. I just got to pick the game. That would be unfair. It's the way we've always done it.
Okay.
All right. And everything
you
else.
Have guts.
We do the show on Sunday night. It's the way we're supposed to do it.
Okay.
So, I guess I'll have to pick it now. Let's see. I mean, to me...
it's quite a wind-up.
I'm going to go with Penn State. And not because I hate Wisconsin, because I don't. Actually, I have a friend that played for Wisconsin last year, Darius Hillary. He's Joe Kelly's godson. He's playing for the Cleveland Browns now. I have no reason to hate Wisconsin, and I don't. When you look at it, I mean, they had trouble with Minnesota, so did Penn State. But Penn State, once they beat Ohio State, I mean, they put up 62 on Purdue. They beat Iowa 41-14. They put 45 on Indiana. They scored 39 in Rutgers, which tells me they probably stopped playing at the end of the first quarter. Michigan State, they beat 45-12, and everybody was talking how Michigan State was going to come up and upset them. I think that Penn State will throw the ball. I think Wisconsin, and this is the reason why I don't think Wisconsin belongs in the Final Four, and it's not their quarterback play. I don't think they're going to be able to cover a lot of fast wide receivers. I think they're made to be a big defensive team that stops the run, which is great when you're playing Michigan and Ohio State. The problem is when you look at their sack totals, the defensive line is solid. It's not great. I think they're ranked like 28th or 30th in sacks, but they've got 31 sacks this year. As comparison, Washington has 36, which tells me they're comparable because Washington's playing teams that are throwing the ball more, so that's why they've got more sacks.
Okay.
But I would say that's the difference there. I just think Wisconsin's going to have a hard time defending the pass, especially if the running back's there. If the running back's not there, I don't think they've got anybody that's gained more than 25 yards in a game this year. So Wisconsin, if the running back doesn't play, I think has a lot better chance to win the game. If he plays, I think the way they're playing right now, I'm going to go with Penn State, especially since they get 2.5 points. Because I think it's going to be a close game. So if I think a game is tossed up, I'd rather have the 2.5 points.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm thinking, too. I can easily imagine Wisconsin winning by 1. But, Mike, I've been agreeing too much with you, so I think I gotta
which makes me worry that I'm completely freaking wrong. So.
No, are you kidding? If I'm going to go against you here, you're going to get this one right. I'll go with Aaron. Yeah, the 2.5 points scares me, but I'll go with Aaron. Let's say Wisconsin wins by
pretty 3. Much everything scares you. That's why you live in California.
Will you listen to this?
I didn't say you were from California.
Everything scares me. That's why I live in California. You know what we got here? We got earthquakes. Those are like acts of God, man. Those things move buildings.
Yeah, but if you live in the Midwest like a grown man, you get tornadoes and stuff. Those are even scary. Earthquakes are just a few seconds. I don't know if you watched The Wizard of Oz. But a tornado can change your entire life.
I am the Wizard of Oz.
Do you get tornadoes in Wisconsin, Aaron?
Yes.
They're scary as hell, ain't they?
Yes.
We
also get blizzards.
You know why tornadoes are really scary to me, though? I live on a house that just has a crawl space. Now, here's my predicament.
Wow.
I live on a house with a crawl space, so here's my predicament. In the crawl space, we don't know what the hell's down there, so I don't want to go down there. Plus, I got my dog, and he can't get down there, and I'm not leaving my dog behind because he's the only kid I got that doesn't give me shit all the time. But this is my problem.
Word.
To get to a basement if there's a tornado, all right? Luckily, she doesn't like sports, so she's not going to listen. Living across the street from me, and this is a horror all in of itself, is my mother-in-law. and she has a basement. So, do I want to die in a tornado, or do I want to have to go over to my mother-in-law's house for a half hour in the basement with her? Tornadoes are scary enough. Tornadoes are scary enough, Aaron, that I actually go into her basement when it's really bad. But most of the time, they're not scary enough for me to stay there. So I'll stand like outside the door and look at the sky. If I see a tornado, then I'll go in.
So what's your over-under on minutes that you can spend in the cellar?
Like 3. It's not a cellar. It's
wow.
a basement. It's a basement, and her 53-year-old son lives down there. But he does. Well, that's not the worst part, and I hope she never hears this show. She's got a 57-year-old son that lives upstairs in a bedroom.
In the attic?
No, in a bedroom.
Tell me in the attic. Oh.
I think it's kind of one of the Norman Bates things, but that's why I try not to be over there too much. And I would never get a shower at her house.
See, and you give me smack for living in California. You have to live with people like that in the Midwest.
So now you're going to talk shit about my family?
Did
you just hear him talk shit about my family, Aaron?
You were just talking about your family.
He was just talking about my family. I mean, that's some weak shit. That's why you live all the way in California, because if you lived in the Midwest, I'd come kick your ass. Because I've seen pictures of you, and I don't think you've ever been in a fight in your life.
Well,
that's stab wounds, buddy. Stab wounds.
Not
from working at a daycare when I was younger, but.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, in any case, let's wrap this up, but not before we talk some Heisman. Lamar Jackson and his Louisville Cardinal. Is it the Cardinal or the Cardinals?
Cardinals.
It's the Cardinals out there.
Cardinals.
Right?
Stanford's the Cardinal.
Stanford. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the Cardinals took another loss. Now, you're pretty anxious to talk about this, Mike. Do you think his Heisman Trophy chances are hindered?
I think it's in trouble unless everybody doesn't do great. I think Baker Mayfield's got a shot. A guy that I think is a long shot that people should pay attention to is D.D. Westbrook. He's the wide receiver at Oklahoma. He's been healthy for 8 games. In those 8 games, they've won them all. He's averaging 19.3 yards per reception, 123.1 per game, and 15 touchdowns. I think Jalen Hurts, I just don't think for a quarterback he's got enough numbers. Plus, he's a freshman. And if you're a freshman, you got to usually do something really superior. I think Jake Browning has a chance. I mean, the game he played against Washington State was pretty good. But a guy that I think is the best football player in the country is Adoree Jackson from USC. I don't know if you watched any of the Notre Dame game. I didn't, but I saw the highlights. I mean, he comes up on this list because against Notre Dame, he had a 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, a 55-yard punt return for a catch or for a touchdown, and a 52-yard catch and run at wide receiver for a touchdown. On the season, he has 4 return touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and I think him and Jabril Peppers are the best players in the country. Now, no, they're not going to give it to him, and I think that it's probably going to come down between Mayfield and Jackson, possibly Westbrook.
But what about the draft, Ben?
What about the draft?
Okay, so do your guys go higher in the draft than the Heisman Trophy winner? Because
the Heisman Trophy winner, I don't even know who's going to be in the draft this year. He's still pretty young. If it's Lamar Jackson. If it's Baker Mayfield, luckily for Baker Mayfield, he's going to get to be a Cleveland Brown, so he's going to be a bust whether he's good enough or not.
Oh, here we go. Somebody else is going to join.
Hey, this is Brian.
Hey, Brian, can you call back in like 5 minutes? We're just finishing up another show.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
All right,
Okay.
sorry for the interruption, guys. That'll be our Boxing Weekly show coming up next. That was Brian LaSpada, who was the former NABF Cruiserweight Champion of the world and fought for the Cruiserweight Championship. Another man that could kick Oz's ass. So, Oz, go ahead and wrap it up. Aaron, you got 2 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah,
Heisman Trophy.
I was going to say. Yeah. Aaron, you got more on the Heisman Trophy?
No, not really. I think I would say this. I think Peppers didn't really do much against Ohio State. I think he's out of the running.
Peppers and Barrett killed themselves.
Yeah, J.T. Barrett. Like I said last week, if this is kind of a close game where neither guy really blows up, I think they're both out of it, and I think that's the case now. I think it's between Mayfield, Jackson, and Mike makes a good point about the kid from Washington, the quarterback. Led his team to 11-1 season. He's got pretty good numbers, put up a lot of points.
Yeah, I think he's got like 40 touchdowns and 8 interceptions.
Is it Browning or Downing or
Browning?
Browning, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it's those three.
Yeah, I think Mayfield's going to be there, and I think D.D. Westbrook could be, especially if he goes off, catches 10 balls for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
It's weird. There's not really a running back and really in contention for it. I mean, usually there's 2 or 3 running backs that are up there with a couple of quarterbacks, but this year
they all petered out. Dalvin Cook is probably the best one that I've seen, though.
Well, what is his name? Dante Foreman. He was in the discussion for a while, but
yeah, but it's hard to do that when you're below 500.
Yeah.
But so next Sunday night when we do the show, we'll know who the 4 teams are, and we can discuss that.
Woohoo! Let's look forward to that. Right.
And Bill Searcy, former Alabama offensive lineman, played for Bear Bryant, won 2 national titles, will be on the show too to brag about Alabama.
Right. All right, there you go. That's Mike Goodpaster. He's a co-host here on the weekly college football pick'em show at thegruelingtruth.net. My name's Oz Davis, and signing off for Aaron Zepnick, I'm Oz Davis. Have a great week.